Time is 6:35. With us tonight is Ben Peters, Bill Lovis, myself, Patrick Knight, Mike Roth, and Kim Van Beck, along with attorney Chris Hood, and that's it online, right? Okay. All right, so with that, we are just making our quorum. Open forum, is anyone here this evening for open forum? And with that, I'm going to close open forum, move on to the consent agenda. Would anyone like to pass a
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
All right, any questions around hires or the fireworks permit or anything? No? All right. All in favor of the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, with that, we're done with consent agenda. Next up, our renewal of our liability insurance.
That's me.
That's you, with your own special chair and mic.
Nice, very nice.
You haven't been in our new
I haven't
facility,
been in
have
the
you?
facility yet, but it's very nice. It's a very nice conference room.
Mm-hmm.
The building's just beautiful.
Turned out very
I know it
nice.
was a long time coming. It took a while to get things done and
Mhm.
a few issues here and there, but I kind of saw when there was a big hole and it was really muddy in the spring. And now it's a beautiful building, so congratulations on that. That's very nice. My name is Bob Cummings. I'm the manager at Security State Insurance. We have an office here in Grand Marais, and our home office is in Aiken. We have an office in Moose Lake and Isles. So a few branch offices. I don't know if you all had an opportunity to look at the summary, a renewal summary, but this will kind of highlight some of the different lines of insurance that we insure on this package. And we can certainly discuss that, and then there were a couple of options I wanted to at least bring to your attention and have a discussion. I'm here to answer any questions that you might have and any discussion that we might have from that. We go to the League of Minnesota Cities. I went back and I actually printed off some loss history just to see how long we go back, and I think the loss history goes back to 1986 with the League of Minnesota Cities. So I thought that was interesting that they'd go back that far. We've had very good loss experience. I think the last major one was in 2021. I think we had the library with some flooding, and that was substantial, but nothing earth-shattering there. But in general, you can kind of view this as a very comprehensive, almost like your homeowner's insurance. It's got all kinds of bells and whistles, and it's just a larger scale. We go through a renewal process, and Kim does a nice job on doing a lot of that footwork on the renewal process. It's an application process online. This year, we've made some changes, taking a few of the property coverages off. We're kind of in transition from a rental, the liquor store rental, to the new liquor store and the new city hall here. So just a few minor changes on the buildings. We did add this building on once it was completed. So that's, you're gonna see an increase in your property premium, and the majority of it's from adding the new city hall on. They also requested that we bump up the value on the power plant location. So a couple years ago, we had HCA, a company that they use to do appraisals, and they'll come through, I believe it's every 7 years, and they do appraisals on all your buildings, and that's what they did a couple years ago here, is they appraised all of our buildings. We found a couple of structures that we needed to add on, but we adjust the values to what their recommendations are. And that way we don't have a problem with any claims being short on value and any penalties that we may have on a claim. We just take their recommendations, and that's what we did. So we had about $2 million onto that power plant building, and that was a letter that went out earlier, a couple months ago regarding that. All in all, that property premium is up. I think we've added $8 to $10 million of property onto the schedule, which bumped that premium up. Overall, the rates are down about 8% on the property and on the liability. The liabilities premium is down a couple $1,000, and part of it's due to that 8% rate decrease, but also due to an experience modification, and the league actually develops a modification for individual cities and how their claims experience should affect their premiums. So because we haven't had many claims, our modification is a positive. We're getting a credit for that. So that's part of the reason why the municipal liability premiums are down. Auto premiums are pretty flat compared to last year. We haven't had many changes in auto. Some of the coverages on some of the lesser value vehicles, I think we took off last year. And we have a $20,000 deductible, and that's kind of across the board. So the property, the mobile equipment, and the auto, we have a $20,000 deductible. So it doesn't make sense to insure vehicles that don't have substantial value. We also have a mobile property coverage, and that's up a little bit in price as well. We have a $250,000 blanket limit on mobile property. So unless we have a piece of equipment that's in excess of that, there's no need to schedule any mobile property. It's covered in the blanket. I guess there could be a situation where all the mobile equipment is parked in the shop, and that could create an exposure, but we have a blanket property coverage as well on the contents of, so there are provisions in the policy that's gonna be able to accommodate us if we have like a catastrophic loss in that situation. So, crime, we have a $250,000 crime coverage, and that's mostly for people handling money, internal crime. So that's kind of like your bond on those people. We also have a $300,000 bond, so that covers people managing money at the Relief Association. I don't know if the fire department still has a relief association, or if they go through para. Is that where their funds are?
Yeah.
So there isn't a huge exposure there. There's not too much money being handled, but mostly for internal people managing money. We also have a liquor liability policy for the liquor store, and that limit is a $1 million limit. It's separate from the municipal liability. It's a separate coverage altogether. Our municipal liability limit is $2 million per occurrence in a $3 million aggregate. Our liquor liability is $1 million. Our auto liability is $500,000 per occurrence and $1.5 million aggregate. And the reason why those limits are different is an auto accident primarily is going to be a tort liability. and Chris probably can, help me. I'm not an attorney, and I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, but, municipalities have a tort liability limit, and it's 500,000. We chose that, to waive that, or not to waive that limit, so we are only liable up to $500,000, per person for a tort liability and 1.5 per occurrence. So, there are some, protections there for municipalities. We did, on the back side, you'll see where we did quote an excess liability with liquor. And that, is $1 million of excess liability coverage. And that premium is, $6,613. We insure, several other municipalities, and some municipalities buy that excess liability, some of them don't. I normally recommend that, excess liability, especially those, municipalities with a police force or, some other authorities like that. Because, my understanding is that, a civil suit or a suit that, for, police brutality or, employment-related practices type suits like, wrongful termination, sexual harassment, those are not tort liabilities. And please correct me, Chris, if I'm wrong, but, you could be sued for more than your limits with those types of suits. ADA type, suits, could also exceed your liability limits. So those are the reasons why people would consider, or municipalities would consider, an excess liability policy. Any questions on that?
I was not specifically what you just spoke about, but one of the line items was fireworks. Where do we get that coverage, or how does that fall in?
We we provide that coverage through the league.
Okay.
And, that is something that we have to, submit an application for
Each time?
each time.
Okay, which I'm familiar with that. It's just, it's, on your column to the right, it just says not covered, so
Right.
that kind of alerts me like, okay, but I see what you're saying. Instead, it's just each application.
It's not covered right at this moment. I think you have a display at Christmas time or in
2.
December?
Actually, 3 altogether.
3, yeah.
Yeah.
And we usually,
Had that in the past.
yep, and each one usually takes a separate application. It's really simple, one-page application. They want a certificate from your pyrotechnic, supplier, and then they, issue the coverage, and it's a separate coverage, and it does provide that $2 million of, coverage per occurrence on that. I believe the cost is about $250 per event, so it's
Yeah.
pretty reasonable.
I see those each time. It just caught me. It's just the way it lists out, so, but now I
Yeah.
get it. That's just separate to each time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, the liquor liability, that limit is, $1 million, so the, excess liability, policy would cover $1 million in excess on the liquor. And, you don't have you have a bottle shop or off sale, but I don't believe you have on sale.
We do have some at the golf course.
Yes,
little bit.
offset,
On sale.
on sale at the golf course. So there's some exposure there that, I just want everyone to be aware of that, that we could help, with that umbrella, so. The other option was equipment breakdown. We've kind of visited this also every year. And, this does not include the power plant. I think the last time we quoted the, equipment breakdown coverage on the power plant, it was like $40,000 for the coverage, and it just seemed, very excessive for what we do, or what, how that operates. I don't, with a $20,000 deductible, I don't see a huge exposure for you here, with equipment breakdown. You may have a cooler go out in your off sale, which could cost you some money or some spoiled product, or, I don't know, maybe you just have to have a big party or something, I don't know, but that would be, an exposure. Phone systems, computer systems, something that, you're not, something that's gonna interrupt your revenue source or something like that is not very likely, other than the power plant. So, unless, someone has some questions or some issues that, of concern, I don't see the benefit of spending $4,300 for the equipment breakdown, especially with a $20,000 deductible. So. As far as the property rates go, I think the rates are still really good. We're insuring, almost $50 million in property for $58,000 in premium. So it's about a 10-cent rate, which is very, especially with the larger, expansive metal roofs now. The insurance companies are really struggling with that. And that reminds me to bring this up. I should mention also that they do have a cosmetic exclusion, or not an exclusion, but a co-insurance on, metal roofs. So they charge, if you have hail damage on one of your metal roofs, and there's, it's just cosmetic, it's not, leaking, it's not, a material type damage, they charge 30% to replace that roof, on metal roofs for cosmetic damage. So that's been new for a couple of years now, and, for some municipalities, that's kind of a big deal, because there's a lot of metal roofs, and you have metal roofs also, but it's a copay, it's a 30% for aesthetic, repairs. There's some limitations on vacant buildings too, and I don't believe you have any vacant buildings, but there are some municipalities out there with buildings that don't get used and they're vacant, so there's some limitations on those, but other than that, the only other thing that I wanted to mention again is the cannabis sales. The liquor liability includes low potency cannabis, nothing high potent. It's just they're not able to provide that coverage at this time, so. Any questions?
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah. Any discussion on the umbrella policy, or would that be something that you'd want to discuss later? And we can always issue that if the council decides that they want to purchase that. But I know it's extra money. I mean, it's $6,600, and comparatively speaking, it's about 50% of your general liability premium. But it does include that excess on the liquor liability as well, and auto liability, so it covers all of those liabilities.
Okay. No, we can take that up at a work session.
Yeah, take it up, and if you have any questions, Kim, you can shoot me an email, I can answer any questions that you might have, and if you're interested, just let me know,
All right,
okay?
very good.
Thanks a lot, Bob.
Thank you,
Thank
thank you
you.
for the time.
Next up, our urban forest management plan, Shane.
Alright. Let me join the meeting and share my screen here. Alright. So, thanks for having me to talk about the urban forestry management plan. Just a like brief background on what we've done here. The city got a grant to do some tree removals and replacements from the relief program from the DNR. We didn't get the funding for the tree removals. We got funding for writing an urban forest management plan. We contracted with EOR, who did our stormwater plan, to do the forest plan, and then we seated the tree board. 3 members are Sarah Waddle, Scott Milhoff, and Bill. And EOR worked with us for the last about year and a half to come up with this plan, this draft of the plan, and they started with inventory of the trees in the city, and then we moved into kind of making goals for the plan and coming up with actions and stuff like that. Interesting things from their inventory: they found 50 species of trees in Grand Marais. Most common species was white spruce. There's 20% of our trees are white spruce, and then red pine, birch, aspen, and maple. 90% of the trees are in great shape, good health, and also 90% of the trees are pretty young. They're not saplings, but they're less than 18 inches diameter at breast height. 87% of spruces have spruce budworm defoliation on them. So 20% of all trees are spruces, and 87% are getting eaten by spruce budworm. 84 conflicts of trees and structures, and half of those are overhead wires. And then EOR's inventory, they projected that we'll lose 1,900 trees in the next 10 years.
And that's across the whole map, right? Their whole area?
Yeah,
okay.
they did some like actually hands-on trees in the areas where we have like prominent trees, and then like the Sawtooth Bluff area, they just did some like remote sensing stuff to try to determine the tree like health up there. So yeah, you only got this plan on Friday, right? The draft, and it's like 60 pages or something like that. So I did suggest just a couple of sections to read, but hopefully these slides can give you like an easy introduction into what's all in the plan. Because EOR, they're very complete. They go in depth into all of this stuff. This graph is just a way to show the pink lines are how many trees we should have at those different ages, and the blue is what we have. So we don't have enough young trees and old trees, but we do have plenty or more than we would need of the like middle young trees. And so as those trees age, hopefully they would become older trees and we could get a more even distribution. But right now it's a little bit off. Or you could look at it and say, we've got, just a few old trees and lots of young trees to fill in. Other things they found were, trees over 50 feet tall near buildings. We have quite a few instances where there's potential for trees to fall in buildings or damage structures. And so they had an eye for that because they knew that when we applied for the grant, we were specifically looking at trying to help address that issue. And so they tried to catalog that for us. So in the plan, it's broken down into different areas of the city. So we have downtown and Highway 61, we have the residential areas, the private property, kind of residential streets, and then all the public property, campground and other public areas. And then the two large forest stands they talk about are Sawtooth Bluff and Sweetheart's Bluff in the campground.
When it says tree stand that's purple, what do they mean by that?
Yeah, so in the original version of this map, they called those woodlots, which were those are public parcels that have trees on them that haven't been planted. They're just there from before the property was even developed. So it's showing that most purpley spot is the Public Works garage before it was developed. Now there's almost no trees on that property, but there are some kind of right as you drive in, but
Yeah.
it's not raw land because it's been developed, but there's trees there that nobody planted them. They're just there.
Sure.
They exist.
Okay.
So the plan's goals, and this was kind of EOR and the tree board, we came up with number one, no net canopy loss of trees in the city. And that kind of ties in with goal 6 is if one of our goals in the plan is to help people remove trees from their property that could be hazardous, then let's replace those trees with something because people either have a few trees in their property or maybe just one or two. They may have a lot of trees on their property, but if we're going to take a tree, let's replace a tree. And then goal 2, increase the canopy by 10%. And I think that goal also ties in with goal 4, which is increase the diversity of the city's forest. So we have trees that are susceptible. For example, spruce budworm right now is an easy one to pick on. Lots of spruces susceptible to spruce budworm. Nobody maybe planted those trees, but they just kind of pop up and they grow really well here. But lots of them are aging out. And so if we can plant trees that are going to be resilient to whatever hazards are common in the urban forest setting. If we're going to plant trees, let's plant those kinds of trees. New trees planted in the downtown area, that also ties in with that goal number 6 or goal number 4. But also I think it ties into goal number 7 to have maintenance protocols and planting protocols for our trees so that we're not randomly planting trees that are going to get taken out by Lenny's snowplow or by excessive salt on a sidewalk or something. A tree that gets planted should be able to withstand, in the downtown area especially. It's not a normal place for a tree to grow. So have it be a tree that can handle that environment. I also note that to not lose canopy, we need to plant 200 trees a year, but then also to grow the canopy by 10%, we need to plant 200 trees per year. So 400 trees per year. That's a big number.
Is some of that still going to the hillside, or are we still talking within sort of the
Oh.
city proper?
Yeah, I should note, I didn't even mention, number 5 is talking about those large forest stands, the Sawtooth Bluff and the Sweethearts Bluff. And in the plan, there's not a lot there for those stands because one, the Sweethearts Bluff is kind of a like, we're not specifically managing it, we're just letting it be. And then Sawtooth Bluff has, there's the Sawtooth Bluff plan that the county's trying to develop, and so it doesn't seem like a good idea to be doing lots up there when there could be other things happening up there in the future. So I just say with a light touch, like it's in the plan, there's not a lot in there. So when you see, 400 trees, that's mostly in the residential areas, and then just a few down here in the downtown area, but yeah, mostly residential.
Okay.
Getting to the costs in the plan, it's easy to see there's 10-year implementation period, $1 million price tag if we pursue everything that's in the plan, and it's important to note that almost half of that is for tree removal, which is extremely expensive to bring in an arborist and take a tree down so it doesn't hit someone's property. So like one of the main goals of this grant, or of this plan, is to then go pursue the relief grant again to get the money to help people take the trees out that they don't want to have fall on their house. And then the other 40% of the cost is maintaining trees and planting trees and helping people plant trees on their property, but then also big trees or bigger trees are more expensive to plant. And then there's a few other things associated with, code updates and education and outreach for people so that they understand how to care for trees if we're gonna give them a tree to plant.
I noticed in the back your schedule of grant sources, there were a variety, and we've been focused on the relief grant, but I noticed there were other ones you listed.
Yeah, EOR found some grant opportunities for us to pursue to achieve some of these goals. Yeah, the maintenance costs are a challenge to really nail down exactly how much it's gonna cost to care for all these trees. So it's like a educated best guess based on how much time is spent caring for some small trees or some young trees in the campground, and then how much would that cost to care for trees that were planted throughout the city on public property.
Does the campground, when you think of all the different campsites, is that sort of a plan to get them more treed or more separation between campers that way? And it's not separation, but I guess it's like privacy between them, or how does that land? It's more just in the general open area of the campground?
Yeah, the trees in the campsite areas themselves are already pretty constraining.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we would probably look at remove some and replace them, but I don't think that we're gonna look at adding a lot in and amongst the campsites. There's
more
quite a
the
bit
other
of
parts.
other property in the rec park though, that we do look and have planted quite a few trees on.
Okay.
Younger trees are good. I mean, down there, you start looking at older trees and you start looking at risk of these trees falling on campers and those kinds of things too. So that's the other issue of lots of trees in a campground.
Yeah.
What
And-
quality of them is a big thing.
Yeah. And then just trying to break down the cost of planting 200 trees or 400 trees a year. And helping people replace trees if we're taking trees out. You can see the numbers there. The costs are higher for the boulevard trees because we would anticipate planting bigger trees in the boulevard areas, the prominent public areas where we would plant 25 trees. And then, planting smaller trees in people's yards. And then they would take on the maintenance of those trees.
So some of those you present as a cost share, and I can remember that part of that relief grant would cover those.
Yeah. So the specifics of the grant, when we applied for the grant, we asked for $300,000 to do 100 trees. I can't remember exactly how many we asked for, but it was to replace. So take the tree out and then plant a new tree there. And the cost, the planting of the small tree is a fraction of the removal.
Right, so in this illustration, we're saying it's a shared expense, but it would be a matter of reapplying for like the relief grant or one of the other grants that then would remove some of this cost for the homeowner ones, okay.
Yep. And then a similar chart for maintenance, bigger number, but also note that most of it, 2/3 of it's coming from hopefully a relief grant to remove trees. And then, maintaining trees in the boulevard and downtown area. And having that maintenance plan for our trees that are so prominently, people walk past them every day and they note, hey, these trees are, when Aaron was doing mulching around some of these trees earlier this summer, people were coming into City Hall saying they're not doing it right because he wasn't done yet. He hadn't completed the process, but in just a few days that he was doing that, people had noticed and they were telling us, hey, I don't think you're doing this right. You need to, move the mulch away from that. And he just wasn't done. And so,
People care and they comment.
People care and they comment and they show up and ask us, how come you're not mulching right? So.
The other important part of that story is this isn't all new money that we're talking about for maintaining trees. We already have staff time that is dedicated to tree maintenance. But if we're gonna plant a lot of new trees that we're maintaining, I would expect that amount to grow. And we don't have a great idea yet of how much that would be. But if we're planting a few hundred more trees that we're gonna take care of, could be significant in terms of staff time.
Yeah, I think
So
there
we're
were
trying to identify that here.
120 trees planted for the Highway 61 project, like trees. And so, adding 25 new trees to that each year for 10
It's
years.
hard to even envision, that was good to hear, because I would have never guessed that number for Highway 61 was that large, even close. Like, where are they all?
Yeah. There's more than you think if you walk the full, it's like, oh, there's like 3 or 4 just like right in a row. So,
Yeah,
but it's harder to imagine where 25 more go. Along 61 it can be easier, but like if you picture, like we looked at tree wells in the downtown area, there's only 3 that don't have trees in them. And
One out here, well, there was one out here.
Yeah, there's a few that used to not have trees in them, but
Might
now
be
they
one
don't
down.
exist anymore.
I mean, the cast iron grades,
Yeah,
yeah.
we've removed a few of those.
And one of them is like right at the end of Wisconsin, like where, it just doesn't seem like a great spot for a tree well with all the storms that smash
Yeah,
into
it's
that in the
buried.
wintertime, so.
Fake one, or a metal tree or something. Very durable tree.
Yeah,
The inventory, did they
stone.
give a guesstimated number of how many trees?
How many total trees?
Yeah.
I don't know if they did. They've surveyed like individually 1,100 trees on or on public property in all of, including the campground and all the downtown and Highway 61 area. And then they just kind of drove along the residential streets looking up and trying to determine kind of the mix of what was growing in the residential area.
10% increase in the canopy is 2,000 trees, so that must mean there's 20,000.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing. I mean, it's way bigger numbers than I would have
Yeah,
thought.
How many blocks are there in Grand Marais?
about 100.
100, that's what I thought. So figure,
Most of those trees are not in the neighborhoods. Most of those trees are up on the hill, just from straight up count wise. But we're talking about planting 200 trees in the neighborhood every year, maybe 400 trees in the neighborhood every year. Another way to think about that is there's about 1,000 properties in the city too. So we're gonna have to put one on every property every 2 years to
right.
meet that goal.
But there's a lot of trees too you can drive around and identify that need to be taken down. There's quite a few. I've got like 6 on my property in my backyard. Just then I can look down the alley and I can see quite a few. So if you factor in those numbers, what we're taking out, what we're putting in.
Yeah. The trees that we take out would be replaced, and probably not a 1-to-1, but like if we took out 6 of your trees, maybe we plant 12 trees in your backyard, and 3 of them end up as adult trees and the rest
Smaller or whatever.
Yeah.
Different species.
different species, and as time goes on, maybe some don't make it, but others do, and so you hope that eventually some, kind of like that distribution graph, you have lots of young trees, and hopefully a few make it to become adult trees that actually provide some canopy. So last slide here is just, what would we do with the plan if this became a city policy? Is first things first is we'd go right back to relief and say, all right, we wrote the plan. Can we do this? Here's how much money we need. And then the other thing is we'll have a good tree maintenance protocol for public trees, so that any tree we plant, we have a really good, documented, this is how we're gonna care for that tree, so that we're not planting trees and then letting them be neglected. And then working with partners to come up with education for an outreach for people who are gonna have trees planted on their property. They'll be responsible for caring for them, and so here are the best practices for how to care for those trees. And yeah, it's a lot of watering and hoping that it rains so that you don't have to water, and all that kind of stuff. So it's not something like a set it and forget it. Like it's attention for a few years to keep them growing. So yeah, I guess this is the draft, the first draft, or you could see it as kind of like the tree board's draft, and we could take comments, or we could give you some time to read through the whole plan and mark it up. You can ask questions.
I did highlight some things. I just want to page through to see. Mostly it was just noticing. So I listened to Sarah Waddle give her presentation on spruce budworm, but what's the likelihood of all, does that mean most of those are gonna go? They certainly be more fire susceptible, right? I mean, of that percentage, what's your percentage again, 87% or?
Not every tree is gonna be defoliated the same. So some trees may survive, some trees may die. I mean, if you take the most drastic point of view, it could be that we do lose 20% of the trees in Grand Marais in the next 5 years or something like that, and then we have we had 20% fewer trees.
Yeah.
And spruces can be big and tall. A lot of those are the ones that we want to remove, and so if they're dead, they're more likely to come down.
Yeah, overhead wires. I've certainly had some in my neighborhood, and by the time they get done pruning them, they're pretty sick looking trees when they're just trying to get them out of the way of the wires. It's no longer an attractive tree either way. This is sort of a sub note, but it talks about sidewalk damage. I was surprised, the silver maple they list as a potential tree, but it's just notorious for whatever. I mean, I read through your list of what they recommended and didn't. But I noticed they had all the different things, pests and all the different considerations per tree you would want to think through before you chose to plant it. Anyone else have any questions? You've got it fully assessed, right?
No, but I've heard a lot of it. I've been part of the process.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been trying to put it into the context of the stormwater management plan. We have that plan. We've had it since 2018, written by the same consultants, and we haven't done everything in that plan. It was like, here are the things that we really should focus on, and what we've done with that plan is we've used it to go get grant money to address the things that we can within that plan. But having that plan has been so beneficial in going, just for example, like the co-op stormwater pond project. Like when I go apply for these grants to get money to do that, I'm always referring to the fact that we have a plan, we know where we want to be in 10 years or in 15 years or whatever the implementation period is, and the grant providers like that. They like seeing that we have a plan. And so that's kind of what I see this as too, is like the way we've been developing is we want to manage the trees in Grand Marais, and we're looking ahead to the future, 10 years down the road. How do we want to have managed the forest, the urban forest?
Well, and I'm assuming that's exactly why we only got half that grant to begin with, is they wanted this background stuff before they'd let us take action.
Right, they specifically said, you don't have a plan, so we're not giving you any money. Or we're giving you enough money to make a plan and come back. Yeah.
Right. And then it looks like other options as well, like you'd listed for other agencies or organizations, not just the relief grant. Okay, all right. Well, this is super helpful, and I really appreciate all your effort in getting that grant and leading that committee and getting them all in place, and you got a really good group for that.
Yeah.
People with good skill sets and knowledge on that.
It's been a good group. They're not here tonight, but there were some issues with their schedules, and some things going on. So
No,
hopefully they'll be here at the next one.
yeah. No, I think you guys have done a lot, moved this quite a ways forward, and just help us understand too even where we're at to begin with. So that's important. So.
Yeah.
Is that it? All right. Thanks, Shane.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Shane.
All right. Next item is a refresher to the rest of the council on our annual review process for this year. The HR committee has been meeting and getting with a variety of topics, but one of which is getting ready for the starting that process again. And one of the things we identified last year was one more time tweaking the timeline for that, so Mike had a good idea of what he thought would work well this year. So this is the same chart we used last year, but Mike's updated the timeline and, has that set.
Everything's happening a little earlier this year. We backed the goal up because we're going to be using department head reviews to inform their increases. I wanted to be able to do that so that they would know before the year begins what their increase was going to be. So that's what the aiming point of the dates. First thing that you'll need to be aware of is your own annual goal conversation happens in early November. And maybe the next important work date for you is the second, mid-November, you're providing your feedback for my review. So you'll have some time before the holidays begin to collect your thoughts and report those in. And then you'll meet in early December to finalize my review. And that'll be the end of your role in this, and the rest of the schedule is about me and the department heads.
Oh, and then we're gonna change, the form we use as well a little bit, cause it felt a little confusing last year and hard to fill out, so Rovina's tweaking that a little bit, right? The two of you got it, so hopefully that will go a little bit better for the council as well. And, yeah. Any questions? Okay, silence is golden, I guess, on that one. So that should be good. Is there anything else we're doing around this, Ben, really, to get ready for this specific? I'm trying to think in our HR committees if there's anything else.
No, no, I don't think you missed anything. I think this is helpful. I think maybe one thing that might be helpful in preparation for setting, this council setting goals would be maybe some sort of a recap of what last year's goals were and maybe where we're at on them. So that might get people geared up and thinking about, what do we wanna do next year? How does that inform administrators' functions next year? And so,
It's a good idea.
something to
Yep.
think about.
All right.
And the other thing is, when we get those reviews, the administrator, like, getting those in a timely manner and being, if you have questions on something, reach out to Ravina, she's awesome, she'll get back to you right away if you had a question or needed something. That way it can really keep this on track, cause I think a lot of this relies on us getting our job done quickly and efficiently. That'll just help out Mike and everybody downstream, so.
Yeah, it's the holidays, and that's another thing that sort of helps us hopefully gets this done before everyone hits that holiday pinch time. It's just hard. So we'll line up on that. And now we're in the third year of this, so hopefully we're getting the swing of it. You don't get enough practice. It takes a while. So, okay. Thanks, Ben. All right, I think that is it then for this evening. We can move on to council and staff reports. Mike, how about you go first tonight? Usually swing around to you last, so guess what? You go first.
I'll be meeting with the county administrator tomorrow for our first official regular monthly meeting.
Sweet.
Which is nice. Hopefully she's had a chance to get her feet underneath her and we can start talking about some of the priority issues that have been under discussion between the city and the county and kind of set aside during their staff transition period, and we can figure out how to pick them up again. So that'll be nice.
Like our joint powers
That's
agreements.
kind of the biggest ones at the top of the list, yeah. So I'm not sure what her awareness is about that yet. We'll just try to figure that out tomorrow. That'll be good. 2 weeks from today, a quick reminder, I'm sure you all got this at the top of your head. We're getting visited by the House Bonding Committee, and then the following day, the Senate Bonding Committee. Really big deal. Lots of planning happening locally about that right now to make sure that we use our brief time with them as effectively as we can. And looking forward to that happening.
So we hope if at all possible that is blocked on your calendar. We got name tags coming, but our time is really limited with them. Their buses. But should all be here for that. Where it'll be nicely decorated. We'll have a little bit of food. And then the same thing the next morning, and that's an even shorter time on Thursday morning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Thursday morning. So, have we sent that? Linda just sent out got the final confirmation for the Senate, but we need to get that in writing out to everyone here when we're doing what, where, and whatever. And she sent out a pretty broad invite to the larger community too, if they wanted to come that afternoon. Certainly like the county and the EDA and the HRA.
Yeah, all of our close partners like that are invited and hopefully they can come. Our job here is mainly to show support. There's really not a lot of even chance to do a lot of interacting. There won't be any other issues to be brought up back and forth kind of thing. It's not a 4-hour thing. There's a different time for legislative lunch for our local folks. This is just a say thank you for their coming and make sure that they have all their questions answered about our project, and off they go.
Yep. We'll have 3 slideshows running if they're bored as they're putting food in their mouth and they want to look and see. One will be a larger one about our county in general, one about the wastewater treatment plant, and then another quick one that just shows all of our other harbor and water related projects and upcoming, like the Coast Guard, Boulder Park, East Bay, and a mention of the master park plan for the rec park, and just showing all the other things we're doing around the lake and the harbor as well. So if they can't find anyone else to talk to, they can stare up at the screen. So yeah, it's a pretty big deal. We've never had an instance where both the Senate and the House come to the same location. So, and they'll be coming from opposite directions. So the House will be heading back up to Ely when they're done here, and the Senate will be coming from Ely back down to here the night before. So.
One more quick note, 2 of our recent applicants for public hearing issues and one previous one from a few months ago notified us that they are being contacted by scammers who are trying to get them to pay fees. It's pretty sophisticated in terms of what's involved. If it was not such a small town, you might even be able to get away with it, but nobody buys it here. However, that's just because we've been lucky so far. So we're going to be adding into our application process a notification to our applicants that when we publish your ad that says you're having a public hearing, expect about a month later to get an email that's not from us, that's trying to get you to wire money to somebody for additional fees.
Got one from you, Tracy, asking for iTunes cards or.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I bought a bunch of them, and I was like, well, she needs these, but.
must be really bad
I
with that
know,
Benson
like-
household. No, we've gotten some weird ones too. Got one.
I got one, I think, remember.
Yeah, and it went to Lynn actually.
Yeah, I went to Lynn, and I looked at him going, that's not from Tracy. Just go.
My favorite one is that Michael Gary, of course, had a variance not that long ago.
Right.
And so they sent him this email, Dear Mr. Gary, Garry. That's how you spell his name. It's signed by Michael Gary.
That's awesome.
Gary, Director of the City of Grand Marais Planning and Zoning Department. Except department is spelled without a T at the end. It's really just like really close, but not quite. And there's probably not enough of us here that you can get away with that, but yeah.
You know, the things are automated, so you'd think the one thing they would do is like a spell check, because you see those little funky typos a lot and those weird things. You were, how can you not get that? But
Yeah.
whatever.
Get better at it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
right.
if you want my money, you gotta do a
want
better
my
job than
money.
that.
It's almost like they're just
Run it through spell check first.
waiting to
Gladly pay
see.
you.
Yeah, like, are you really reading this? I don't know.
That's it here.
That's it?
Yeah.
Really? That's everything? Wow. Okay, Craig.
I don't have anything.
Nothing for me.
Holy smokes, just wait till January. I have this feeling we need to do a realignment. Yes, Bill?
AAR, there's some issues with progress that has been made versus where they'd like to be, and then concern over how much has been spent and how much needs to be invested to get to where they want to be. That's kind of a real basic.
Do they still meet regularly?
Yeah,
Okay,
we just met on Thursday.
okay. All right. We'll wait for more, you think? Or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right. Since we last met, we had our community leadership meeting, which of course all of you are invited to. And Bobby hosted it up at the new ferry terminal at Portage, so that was neat to get inside that building and see all of that. And a pretty good turnout, and everybody gives their little updates. And that was the new county administrator's first time with the group and leading the group, and just some nice updates on different projects. You know, obviously the school wants to talk about their bonding. The hospital is talking about, you know, the potential issues they'll in front of them. I don't think anything else really stand out. We talked about the bonding visit, and they sent out a survey today asking what kind of format and things are of interest to people, and then next time meeting. So I offered default if no one else, you know, they can always come here. So we'll see how that goes. The next meeting would be November. North Shore Management Board had a work session then that Friday. We're still working on the plan update. I basically spent several hours after that editing the update. And then we're still talking through membership criteria and voting members and a few things like that. Just really trying to tighten up the board, how it operates, because they're long-term, if they want to keep operating well, we've got to start looking at funding sources and grants and things, and maybe a broader purpose. I mean, it has a very important purpose now, and if it's ever relinquished, they'll, you know, it won't come back. It'll be governed by the DNR, like all the other rest of the shoreland. Lake Superior's north side is the only one that's set by its own separate board. So it's important for them to figure this out in the long term. We had the hazard mitigation plan review that's done by Mike Keyport's group, and that goes back through FEMA, right? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, and there
For
was a
summary.
different group running that meeting.
Yeah, their UMD group that's facilitating the rewrite, right? They've ran the meeting, but that's what it's for. It's for our county's hazard which it's our shoreline and everything, so it's definitely in the city of Grand Marais. And we've already put all our input. Then was this the final review, I think?
Maybe this time. I mean, this is something we're always coming back and redoing this plan, so,
Yeah, but for this version, I think this was our last chance to comment.
yeah.
So, but yeah, it's run by a group, but a UMD is rewriting it. Then I had the opportunity to sit with on the panel with World Press Institute's journalists that were here for several days, and that was really fun. And listen to their questions and describe our community and all about us. That was great. Then we met with Stantec for the Boulder Park plan, and they're busy. We're meeting with them tomorrow, right, to see what they've got so far. They're just starting to do testing and get assessments going, but at least it's going. The project is no longer just a thought, it's happening. We also met last Friday with the SHPO architects from Mankato, and so they're ready to get rolling. I spent a lot of time getting them introduced and connected with different people who have a good history background. Rick Anderson, Stacy Drulard. I'm still trying to get a hold of Tim Cochran, Brian Tofty, different people that they can start interacting with to start their work. They're going to do a lot of modeling to figure out areas they think might have interesting pieces to them. And so that project is also finally up and running. They'll be here tomorrow to begin their first real work for Thursday through Sunday. And if anybody has any extra rooms or openings, they're camping at the rec park this time. They'll be here till the ground freezes, but they're looking for more affordable places to stay when they're here, and they aren't adverse to camping.
When are they gonna be?
Well, they'll be coming and going. I don't know their exact schedules.
Like into the fall or beyond, or?
Oh yeah, until the ground freezes. So they could go a while, but then once everything freezes up, then they won't, as far as I know, do it, right? They wouldn't do anything literally up here. They have
don't
other
need to be
things
here
to
then.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Put them in contact with me.
okay. Well, that's another source as well. Thank you, Ben. We had the EDA meeting. We have decided that we will post the executive director's position beginning December 15th and run it through the end of January. We felt it would be ineffective to do that over the holiday time frame by the time it got posted and going, and we're okay for administration right now. And we got it all cleaned up the way we want it and all of that. So we're good with that. And then we gave the last grant for this funding cycle, and that went to the Beaver House. It was not the full amount they asked, but it was the rest of the dollars we had available. And we told them when we get refunded, if you'd like to, you can come back to help that project get started. And I only have one last thing, which gets back to meetings. So once again, our meeting at the end of November falls on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Would you like to switch that to Tuesday or another date? Last year, I know we did Tuesday. I think Tuesday. Does that work better for people? It would work better for me, but.
I'm gonna be gone that week.
Okay, so you're on the whole week. Okay.
Yeah, Tuesday is fine.
Okay. Craig?
I have no idea. It's fine. Whatever day.
Okay. Let's just plan on Tuesday then to help everybody.
Okay.
I'm assuming some of the
Remember
staff
25th.
might wanna not be tied up the night before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it'd be much more convenient, yeah.
Okay, let's shoot for that then. Okay, that's all I had. We're done. Yay. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.